Welcome to Expert Profiles Atlanta, where Atlanta's influencers and innovators share strategies for overcoming obstacles and achieving success in business and life. Here's your host, best-selling author and Atlanta influencer, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my special guest is Ned Crystal. And Ned is the owner of Fitness Battalion CrossFit in Atlanta, and he is a 3-time cancer survivor, and he's going to share with us today that story, as well as how CrossFit and keeping fit and healthy has helped in that journey. So welcome to the show, Ned Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you've obviously got a great story, so let's talk about that journey that you've been on so far and how Fitness Battalion CrossFit comes into that.
Wonderful. Well, I was 33 years old, so 11 years ago, I was playing in a men's ice hockey tournament, and long story short, blew out a right knee and was subsequently diagnosed with stage 3 myxoid liposarcoma cancer, which is a very rare soft tissue cancer. It is very aggressive, and was basically told 2 staggering facts at my first oncology visit. Number 1 being they were going to amputate my leg, and number 2 being that I would be lucky if I saw the age of 35.
Wow.
So as you can imagine, being 33, having lived a pretty hard and fast life with being successful in business and just enjoying day by day, not really thinking of much else, that put the brakes on everything pretty hard. And my responses were, "You're not taking my leg," with some very choice words, as one can imagine. And the other aspect was, well, I've got 2 choices. I can either pack up my tent and call it a day and say 35 will be great if I mend it, or I can dial down and get through this. And luckily enough, I had an amazing support system. I have a phenomenal doctor, an oncologist who's a best friend now. And we went through it. We did chemo, we did radiation. The interesting aspect of the whole piece, the first round of cancer, was that I was probably in what I thought was the best shape of my life going into that. I was 6'2", 205 pounds, hardly any body fat, did the typical workout in the gym every day, and played some ice hockey. And so when I got chemo and radiation, it destroyed my body. I literally went down to about 165 pounds, lost hair, all my fingernails, toenails, repetitive multiple side effects, et cetera, et cetera. I recovered from that when a neighbor of mine in Atlanta, in my neighborhood that I was living at the time, introduced me to CrossFit. He and a couple of his buddies, all former Division I football players, had a gym in their garage and thought it would be neat for me to come in and try to rehab a little bit with them, and it just clicked. It's basically a way of taking functional fitness, in other words, everyday movements, and utilizing cardio, gymnastics, body weight movements, and weightlifting all the way to Olympic lifting to facilitate better mobility and better movement. And it really did phenomenal work for me, because when they did all the surgery on my right leg, which is where I had my cancer, they removed about 30% of my quadricep and hamstring muscles. Mm-hmm. Alongside of that, permanent nerve damage in my right leg from my hip to my foot. And I noticed very quickly that my body adapted quite well to this form of workout, and therefore started seeing some very definitive strength results, which I think attributed to my long-lasting ability to get farther down the road than 35 years. Mm-hmm. So a little bit longer story, a little bit shorter. I had my second round in 2010, same place, same exact cancer, came right back, found it one day while I was taking a shower, saw my buddy, the oncologist, had my lifetime max, of chemo and radiation, so they can only do surgery at that point. We did surgery, continued to do this CrossFit, functional fitness working out, became a CrossFit coach afterwards, and really fell in love with what it was doing for me and for others that I saw coming into the gyms I was coaching at, in regards to truly making them healthier people, regardless of what their background was. So I'd been in residential real estate for about 12 years, and I retired from that 3 years ago. And I knew, with talking with my wife, we're going to buy a CrossFit gym or we're going to build one. Mm-hmm. I had looked at a couple other businesses in town that were open to having a new partner come on, and the financials didn't work out. They were very, very heavily in debt and overbuilt, if you will. And so I found Fitness Battalion, which was actually in existence for 6 years before I had bought it, and they were going out of business. They were down to 22 members, and it was just fledgling. So I bought it, I should say, back in June. And due to implementing what I believe is the sole purpose of gyms as well as humans, you're meant to serve other people. Our goal is to serve others to make them better, right? I think that's an innate human trait that a lot of folks don't tap into. And since June, we've taken the gym from 22 people up to about 85 as of right now. And we've added additional classes, we've added additional services. And what we try to do is bring an a la carte menu, or actually I should say not a la carte, I should say buffet style menu. Being down in the Bahamas right now kind of messes with you. Mm-hmm. But we try to bring a buffet style menu so that anyone from any shape, walk of life, background, etc., can walk into our gym, feel comfortable, feel safe, and see and feel the same benefits that I've received going through what I think is one of the hardest and most difficult physical things that a human body can go through. And so in that, we've literally had people come in and become members who, one gentleman, for example, a guy by the name of Tony, who's an incredible human being. He's a waiter at one of our favorite restaurants, and we got him to come into the gym because he was over 300 pounds and wanted to lose weight because his goal, his why was, I want to be around for my daughter. Mm-hmm. And within 4 months, we've gotten Tony to drop all the way down to 265 pounds. Wow. And it's because we've looked at 3 mantras that we practice in our gym. Functional fitness, in other words, how is he moving? Is he even working out? How is he eating? And then thirdly, is he focusing on himself in a positive way, i.e. mental, psychological? We combine all 3 of those pieces into each athlete dependent upon what their goals are. And so Tony committed right away. We got him on a ketogenic diet. He's taking more time for himself in regards to doing things for him instead of letting everything else on the outside of him control his life. He's actually taking time for himself. He's now getting into, playing recreational soccer. He meditates for 5 or 10 minutes a day. All these different things that he's now putting into his life so that he can actually feel content and feel positive instead of where he was before, which was always significantly overweight. And therefore he had very big self-image issues. He had sort of that class clown personality, because it's very, very common in some folks that are a little bit overweight. They have great personalities, but they use a lot of self-defaming jokes to sort of get by in life. And he's totally turned his life around, and it's truly an amazing thing to see. But again, the whole point that started that off was he said, I have a deep-seated why, my daughter, and I need to walk in the door. And that's all it takes. So right.
And, when you have people like that are ready and willing to make the difference, they've made that decision, they understand that their why is bigger than their excuses. That's when, real results can happen. But, how has your perspective on life changed going through what you have affected the way that you do business, and how have you implemented some of that experience into your business?
It's a great question. And I would say I refer to everything in my life as before cancer and post cancer. So BCPC, if you will. Before cancer, I would have looked at this as a completely capitalistic entity and said, how do we make the best bottom line, the most profitable decisions for the gym? And after cancer, my big why of why I do this is, how do I serve others? What can I put into place that not only serves them in a getting healthier kind of way? Because, I mean, if you think about it, any gym technically does that in theory. I mean, they have a building, they have equipment. If you go in, you should be able to get healthier. We wanted to take it an even step further and say, we want to serve others, but we want to really change lives. We want to get down to that deep rooted entity. And my college background is I did my Bachelor of Arts in psychology. And it's really understanding that each person that walks in that door, if they've made that step to get off the couch and walk in, we have to actually consult them and find out, what is that why? They may not know it. They may have a cursory one, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to look better in a bathing suit. Well, why? And you start diving deep with them. So step one is that we really consult each member almost like a personal client. Even though our fitness classes are group classes, we want to know every member in our gym. I can tell you, of 85 members, what everyone in our gym wants to do and what they want to get out of this, because we've actually spent that time with them. Number two, we evaluate where they're at physically. We actually look at how they move, where are their trouble points, what are the issues that will be impediments to getting them to that goal. And then number three, we take every new individual and we teach them significant amount of technique before we actually put them into a full group class. So they go through what we call an elements or foundations class. So they spend about 3 weeks one-on-one before they get released into the big classes. And the other thing that we add on top of those pieces is that we have an on-site nutritionist that we give access to all of our members on, so they can dial that nutrition in. And since I'm not a certified licensed nutrition, I can give you some overview points. But again, if you have medical issues, you have a certain aversion or allergies to certain things that might be in a particular diet, I can't advise on that. So what do I have to do? I've got to have an expert who's certified and licensed in that to be able to do that, and we do. We have an on-site yoga instructor who comes in once a month and does power yoga to teach people how to stretch and move a little bit better, as well as to how to center themselves, getting into that mental aspect. So we try to provide as many pieces of service in those three areas, mind, body, soul, at their disposal. And some members will take it and say, we're going to do everything on the plate or on the buffet. And some members will say, you know what, I'm just only here to just do my workouts and leave. And that's fine. But we want to be able to provide that for them. And so going into that route, you look at it and you say, as long as it's somewhat profitable, but I don't need to make a gigantic killing on this, nor will I ever. That's not why I'm doing this, is the new view. Whereas the old view would have been, how do I make the most amount of profit per class, per service that we offer? And that's not why I'm doing this. That's the beauty of retirement. That's the beauty of being in my place in life, where I can hire the best coaches who believe in this. And so that's how we implement change in people, is by making it a safe, friendly, and honestly encouraging environment for them.
Now, that is a great place to be in life, to be in a position to help people. And I think it's really a great place to be in business as well. And I see countless businesses change. You talked about the bottom line, and, most people think about it, it's all about making money and, making sure that bottom line is the focus. But really, the bottom line changes when you have that type of service. I mean, I can imagine just growing from 22 to 85 in a few months is, tremendous growth quickly. I imagine those people don't really go anywhere else after receiving that kind of service.
I agree with that. And that's why we have a great retention percentage. I mean, our retention percentage is right now holding at around 94.5%, because we do have a lot of students, because we're close to Georgia Tech. So we do have some transient nature there. Holidays and summer vacation, we'll have folks cycle out, as well as graduation, and folks cycle in. But on average, our percentage of retention stays extremely high. And that's the other piece going into business. If you're successful in business, you're looking at your numbers every day. Mm-hmm. So our two back end mantras that we use with the staff is, number one, how does it serve our clients? And number two, is it profitable for the business? Now, it doesn't mean that it needs to be exponentially profitable, but number one, if it doesn't provide value or service to our members, then we won't even do it, regardless of cost. And number two is I've just got to break even and a little bit more if possible, so I can make sure I've got rent and utilities and all those things paid, because we're in West Midtown, so it's not cheap in Atlanta.
Right.
But as long as we're doing those two things on a team side, on the staff side, then we're fantastic. And that's where I think you see the bottom line aspect change, because now you're embodying this value. You're embodying as a business, you believe and you sort of, every aspect that you do displays this to your members. That's why you have good retention, because you're giving them change, but you also live and breathe and walk this every day.
Yeah. And people can feel that as well. They can feel it when they walk in the door and they know they're in the right place. So let's talk about your clients now. Let's talk about some of the problems that they have. Why are they coming to you for help?
Number one, I think it is because CrossFit as a brand, positive or negative, and we'll get to that, I'm sure, is very prominent. It's exploded over the last 10 years. There are a lot of CrossFit boxes, as we call our gyms, in Atlanta. I think there's over 42 within the 285, which is the ring road around Atlanta. So there's a lot to choose from, so you see them everywhere. And I think a lot of folks get the idea of, I like this because it is run by a coach, so someone's going to tell me what to do. And number two, I'm doing it with other people, so I don't have to go into the gym, say a big box Globo gym, and spend maybe an hour in there, but I get distracted. I don't really want to push myself too hard. So I go in for an hour to say I've been at the gym, but I'm not really doing anything. I'm not really seeing any change. I'm doing the same things over and over again. And that's person A. Person B is I can't even get off the couch. And so I think the reason that one of the main reasons that folks come in is because it's an accountability aspect. Someone's going to push me. I'm not having to pay through the nose to get a personal trainer, but I'm going to have a dedicated plan, a specific set of movements and or workouts already done for me. I just have to show up, learn how to do them, and I do them with other people.
All right. So for those people that don't know exactly what CrossFit is, explain that to us.
CrossFit is what is also known as functional fitness. It's basically taking a high intensity amount of work and doing it over either short or long periods of time, as well as doing it over short or long distances. And it can be a myriad of combination of movements and or weighted objects. Yeah,
so,
go ahead. Sorry.
Is it more of a cardio workout, or is it a weight strength training workout?
So as I was sort of discussing a little bit earlier, it combines three major components, what we call monostructural or cardio, which can be running, rowing, jumping rope, gymnastics, which are body weight movements from an air squat to a pull-up or a sit-up. Two weightlifting movements can be dumbbells, barbells, Olympic lifting movements, or kettlebells. And so what the goal is and why it works so well is it's about shocking the system. You'll never do the same workout back to back or even within the same week. You may not even do the same movements, but you will do versions of them, and it is a full body combination of all three of those criteria into each workout in a very methodical, very method-based program over 5 days and 3 weeks is the way we cycle it. So there is a actual scientific layout to it.
Yes, very thought out. So tell me some of the myths or misconceptions around CrossFit.
I think the two biggest ones that come to mind, number one is everyone that does CrossFit drinks the Kool-Aid, i.e. it's a cult, and all they talk about is CrossFit. Number two is if I go and do CrossFit, I'm either going to get really big and bulky, especially the women think that, or I'm going to get injured. So three total, I guess you should say, three total major misconceptions that we see.
And why do people think that they're going to get injured by doing CrossFit? What's the reason for that?
There's a lot of articles on the internet, and of course, this is something that makes me laugh because when I was going through my cancer treatments, the one thing doctors would tell me, don't go on the internet and search your kind of cancer and read articles because you will think you're going to die tomorrow and you're going to get the worst things that happen right away.
Right.
And it's the same thing with CrossFit. You go on the internet and there'll be somebody who's gone into a CrossFit and either they never listened to the coaching and did things incorrectly and hurt themselves, which can happen. Or unfortunately, there is a small percentage where you have bad coaching, where you go into a gym, you don't get coached and people don't instruct you. So of course, a few bad apples ruin the bunch kind of mentality. But when you go on the internet, there's plenty of these articles out there that will tell you it's a terrible way to work out. It's very dangerous and all these other things. And we find that that's not the case because in our gym, we've never had an athlete injure themselves in our gym because that's why we have coaches. That's why we put them through an elements program to make sure they learn to crawl before they walk, before they run, if you will.
But, that elements program is extremely important to make sure that they're doing these movements correct. But ultimately, it's a functional fitness program where you're doing movements that you would do in, normal day life, having to deal with things like moving house or, just picking stuff up and
exactly.
You're running after your kids. I mean, you do all these movements anyway. You need to make sure that your body is strong for that. So
exactly. I can look at an Olympic lift like the clean and jerk, which you see on television in the Olympics, and you see these amazing athletes doing these crazy things with really large weight. Number one, as a new athlete, you shouldn't even be thinking about what the weight would be. You just want to get the movement down because a clean and jerk resembles if you do have a toddler and you want to pick your toddler up from the ground and you want to raise your toddler overhead and swing him around, you've just done a clean and jerk.
Right.
It's the same movement. And we use those examples all the time in our classes. I'm like, did you move this weekend? Somebody would say, yes. We had a member move the other weekend. I said, isn't it interesting now that you're picking up all those boxes, you're actually deadlifting them correctly now instead of using your back the way you used to, and you were probably really sore the last time you moved, but this time were you sore? No, I wasn't because I was doing it correctly.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Now let's talk about some fears. What fears might people have that would hold them back from contacting somebody like yourself or joining a CrossFit gym?
I think the biggest fear that folks have, which prevents them from coming to us or anyone else, is it's an internal fear. It's an internal fear of risk and change. It's why there are people that live very safe lives. They don't ever go above the speed limit, not that you should, but they always, everything's safe and regimented and easy. And it's nothing's hard. So saying to yourself, I know I'm out of weight or I'm overweight or I'm out of shape or I'm just not happy about myself, and taking that first step to say, I need to change that and get that process moving, whether it's an email or telephone call, I think is the hardest obstacle people have. It's actually saying, I need to take a risk. I need to just jump off the cliff, if you will, and see what happens. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're not going to change. Mm-hmm. That's the fear they can't get over is, well, I haven't really done anything hard, or this is going to be too hard, so I'm not going to make that call or that email. But I think that's primarily the very first obstacle that most people have from coming into us.
All right.
Fear of unknown.
What are some little known pitfalls or common mistakes that you see people make when they're thinking about getting started in an exercise program?
It's what I call the all or nothing. They basically go ahead and say, I'm going to do 100% everything right away. And you have to ease yourself in, especially if you've never done a program like CrossFit or functional fitness, or if you've never worked out before. You've got to understand your body is going to really change and react pretty quickly. And so you can't say, I'm going to go in and work out Monday through Friday right away, because you will really beat yourself up. You will be extremely sore. You're going to be extremely tired. You might even wind up experiencing a lot of negative aspects mentally. So what we always recommend, ease into it. You do a Monday on, a Tuesday off, Wednesday on, Thursday off, Friday on, so that you're giving your body 24 hours to adjust, recover, recuperate from that previous day's workout. The other aspect is a lot of folks will be like, I know I need to get on a better diet. So they go to the grocery store and they buy $300 worth of food at Whole Foods, for example. All the stuff they think is great and clean and healthy, and probably is, but they don't know what to do with it. Then it spoils. And they're like, well, I'm trying to do this eating thing too, and I'm trying to do this. I'm like, don't change everything at once. Just start small steps, get used to it. It takes 3 weeks to make a habit. 21 days is all the studies have shown. Do one piece at a time. It will all come eventually. But a lot of folks try to rush into it and do everything, the all or nothing right away. They get frustrated and they don't see as much change because they're not really doing it efficiently. So then they stop.
Yeah, that's a big misconception. I think that, you can see immediate changes, in a short period of time. Generally, it's taken a long time to get to the stage that you are in your health and your habits. And it may take a long time to get where you want to be. But as long as you're working your way in the right direction, you're going to see those changes eventually. So can you share with us a lesson, Ned, that you learned early on in your business that still impacts how you do business today?
Yes, I would say the biggest lesson that I have is don't be afraid to change things or be flexible. So, for example, when I started with this, we had a 5-class schedule, and we've recently added 7 other classes, and we had to adjust timing a bit. And there was that worry of, if we adjust timing, is that going to upset the members the original members, the old guard, or OGs as the kids call it, I guess, if we adjust the schedule too much, and are we going to lose them? And there was that rigidity of saying, well, if I do that, I lose them, but we're trying to grow. And ultimately, if you are flexible enough, you get enough input, right? Again, going back to service, it's not just about saying, here's what we do. To really serve your client, it's getting their input and feedback and truly taking it to heart and adjusting things when they need to be driven by change from the members. And so we have adjusted those hours a little bit. We've added a whole bunch of new classes as we grew. And ultimately, because we were transparent with our members about all the things and steps and progress of the gym, both from a financial side to a logistics side, we've gotten 100% buy-in all along the way. But there was that initial resistance on my part to not want to rock the boat, but also learn how to get that feedback in real time to adjust correctly and make sure that we're serving them as they need it.
Yeah, when people know they're in the right place and, they feel like family and the owner has their best interest at heart, they're going to understand changes and they're going to work with you. They're not going to want to leave. So that's a great place to be in business, Ned. Now, what's an important question people should be asking if they're wanting to get in better health and they're thinking about CrossFit?
They basically would be asking, how do I do this? Just how? Because I think that knowing the how, in other words, the steps to do it, what's involved, takes that fear away. Information always cures fear. Fear is always of the unknown. And it's just, okay, I'm interested in it. How does it work? So ask that simple question. Any CrossFit or coach you go into should be able to easily give that to you in 3 sentences and make you feel comfortable.
Excellent. So if people want to get in touch with you, Ned, what is the best way for them to find out about your gym, which is the Fitness Battalion? Where is it and how do they get in contact with you?
We're right in West Midtown in Atlanta, right off Huff Road. We're about 800 meters, as we call it in our running circles, in the gym from Westside Provisions. You can look us up online at www.fitnessbattalion.com. We have all of our programs listed out there, as well as coach bios and photos of the gym so you can see a bit of the facility. You can always feel free to call us directly at 678-779-8572. That's my direct cell phone. I'm available even down here in the Bahamas, I'm still taking calls from members 24 hours a day, as well as text messages. And you can follow us on Facebook at Fitness Battalion CrossFit and on Instagram at Fitness Battalion.
Excellent. Well, Ned, I appreciate you being my guest on Expert Profiles Atlanta today. You've got a great story, great service. It really puts life in perspective. And, I don't think people need to wait until they find out that they have some kind of disease or ailment that's going to hold them back from getting in the gym and basically putting themselves first and making sure that they have health. Health is extremely important in all aspects of life, and it's something that needs to have a value, and people need to put their time in it. So if any of our listeners are listening, they want to get hold of Ned at Fitness Battalion, make sure you get all his contact details there. And Ned, thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your vacation in the Bahamas.
Thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and definitely we look forward to anyone that's interested in making a change in their life because of something or to prevent something. Give us a ring. We're here for you.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you for listening to Expert Profiles Atlanta with Neil Howe. To learn more about the resources in the show or to listen to past episodes, visit expertprofilesatlanta.com.